Village of Bartlett board meeting, actually committee of the whole meeting beginning first for March 7th, 2017. We will be going into committee of the whole, and then we'll adjourn committee of the whole and go directly into a board meeting, and then we'll re-adjourn into committee of the whole for the finale of the committee of the whole meeting after the board meeting. So, with that, I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens? Kimmer? Here. Carbonaro?
Here.
Daney?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. And the item that we have here is under finance and golf for Trustee Daney.
Oh boy, I'm not prepared. You're going to have to bear with me for a moment.
Flip it over to... You got it more for that later. Okay.
All right, so basically, we're to address the proposed budget, correct? Okay.
Yep. And we'll just turn it over to...
Todd, please, if you'd be so kind.
Great, thank you. Yes, tonight we're going to go over the proposed budget. We passed out the big binder back a week or so ago, but tonight we'll be going over the presentation, the smaller binder. So again, I want to thank you and welcome you to the proposed budget. I had some accounting jokes lined up. It didn't go over very well. I want to thank Scott for the good meal to set the mood and get everybody ready for the budget.
Yay, Scott. You can always count on the big guys to order the good food.
Again, okay, Tammy? No, I told Tammy if there's any trouble, I was going to give her the signal. I didn't know it was going to be so early.
Man.
Sorry. Thank you and welcome. We have been busy the last few months, a lot going on in the village, and preparing this proposed budget has been a big part of that. We spent a lot of time. We are proposing to keep the property taxes for the general fund levies, so that's always a challenge as far as trying to squeeze everything in this budget. First of all, we'd just like to, as a reminder, the budget is not just crunching numbers for us each year. It gives the departments a chance to review their goals and objectives and to communicate how they're doing, and we'll get into that next week more as each department goes over their part. It's also we'll review the major revenues tonight and take a look at the fund balance projections. Describes the programs of the village, including a personnel summary. And the budget also communicates activities, policies, and other information. There's a lot of miscellaneous tidbits and information in the budget each year. This is the budget calendar. You've all seen this before. We're getting towards the end of the budget calendar tonight. Again, we're just going over an overview of the proposed budget. Next week, we'll get into the departmental details. And the following week after that will be the public hearing. In April, then we'll be approving the budget before the fiscal year starts May 1. So the first issue is where all the money comes from. $75,535,000 is the proposed revenue for this year. The first I tried showing where the different money comes from. The first one is the property taxes, 14%. This is just the general fund, general corporate property taxes, police pension levy, debt service levy. Other taxes includes income tax, sales tax, use tax, telephone tax, real estate, MFT, and also our TIF increment taxes. Charges for services, those are our enterprise funds, water, sewer, parking, golf, 19%. Interest isn't what it used to be with the interest rates so low. Borrowings is really up this year. This includes DePage Water Commission, money that we'll be borrowing from them, as well as IEPA low interest loans, and there's a little bit of TIF developer notes in that amount. Other revenues includes license permits, franchise fees, miscellaneous income. And where the money goes, $88,430,000. The big one this year is we already did our capital improvement plan. Big one this year is for police station, water, sewer, streets, TIF. Debt service includes our GO bonds. We've got 2007 fire station bonds. 2009 was a refunding, which has actually picked up the Village Hall bonds. We issued bonds for water meters, the water change out a few years ago. 2012 streets bonds, and then the 2016 the police station bonds. Golf 2%, general government 8%, public safety, public works rounds it out. Operating versus capital. Usually operating is on the higher side of the equation, but this year operating is staying pretty level. Capital really went up this last year. $41 million for the operating and $46 million. That includes the capital outlay, capital improvement plan of $41 million, and plus some debt service for the TIF bonds is where that shows up. We're going to get into the revenue part. Tonight is a main discussion on the revenue. Next week we'll be looking on the expense side, except for, I think, the golf fund. We'll talk about revenue a little more in the golf fund. 75 million again. We saw the 88 million expenses. The difference between the 75 and we issued the police station bonds this year, so the money came in this year, and then we'll start spending that next year. That's the difference. Still, the total revenue is up 50% from the prior year, so basically $25,000 up, $25 million up, and that's mostly from the enterprise funds, the water connection fees. Property taxes. And property taxes is the most stable of the taxes. It's basically the bread and butter of local government. $10,845,000 for property taxes. That's 14% of our total revenue. This is $1,550,000 over the budget. Last year's budget did not include the police station bonds that came along after the budget for last year was already approved. So the dollar amount includes the general police pension and the debt service. The village's share is about 9%. That's an estimate. We've been running about 0.5%. 9% is a little bit up. We don't know what the other taxing districts are doing at this time. The total increase in the levy from the one we levied in December to what this budget is budgeting will be levied the next December is up $287,025. Now, most of that, again, we were abating some of the road bonds. About $220,000 a year we were abating the road bonds. That money was coming right out of the debt service fund. We used about $1 million over the last 5 years, that service fund, to abate those, and we're not going to be able to do that future years going forward. The fund balance of the debt service is down to as low as it can get, and so that's where most of the increase in the property tax levy will be coming from. The total levy then will be an increase of about 2.7% from the prior year's levy. And we're estimating 4% increase in the EAV now. That's a pretty conservative estimate. Property taxes are just starting to come around. We'll see later, and it's due to the lag in how the assessor assesses the property. Sometimes they use a 3-year average. Oh, I skipped the interest rates, but we'll be getting to that. back to number 6 there, the timetable again. We set the levy in our budget now, and then we actually review it again in the fall, and then that's when it's approved and sent into the counties is the December after it's set in the budget. So property tax rates and EAV. Cook County, you can see that we were keeping our property tax levy level, but the rates go up because the EAV was going down. Now we've raised our property taxes for debt service, and so they're still going to be creeping up a little bit, even as the EAV starts to go up. Cook County was the first one. DuPage County, you can see where DuPage County had a little hiccup in the rates when we had a problem with the assessor's office in Kane County, so it gets complicated with the state calculating the burden, and Cook County assessing at one rate. The state calculates the multiplier, and then the burden is spread between the two counties. So I couldn't tell you truthfully how they come up with the rates and how it affects everybody as far as the difference between Cook County and DuPage County, but I think everybody knows that there's a little difference there, and that's what throws it off. So as you can see in this next slide, the EAV bottomed out a few years ago. It's just starting to creep up. It's a long ways from where it was back 10 years ago, though. Our next big tax is the income tax. We're budgeting $4,165,000 this year. That's just over 5%. It is a little lower than what we budgeted last year. During the 6-month review, we talked about the issues with the state and the income tax, and how the IML, which estimates what the tax is going to be, they revised their rates during the middle of the 2007 year. We were looking at $102 per capita. During the middle of the year, that dropped to $97 per capita. We're looking at coming in about $360,000 below budget this year. That still looks like where we're going to be. The IML, the Illinois Municipal League, they said they were going to be issuing more frequent updates in regard to that. We still haven't seen any, though. So I think there's still a big question as the state goes and what the income tax is doing right now. The good news is it'll be up a little bit from where we're coming in this year. We're expecting it to be up 4%, or about $160,000 more than where the 2017 year is going to finish. The state of Illinois, the income tax rate is still 3.75%. There's a lot of stuff floating around in the news with the legislator, what's going to happen with that. Sometimes they want to, some people are saying, well, they shouldn't share any of that with the municipalities. So there's a lot of things floated around. You don't know what actually is going to come down. Sales tax, I would say, again, sales tax is one of the brighter areas as far as the revenue for the village. $202,400,000 is the amount that we're budgeting. It's about 3% of our total, and up $195,000 from last year's budget, or 9%. Again, the village receives 1% of the sales tax in the village out of the. It's collected. It's all collected by the state, distributed to us. We did have one rebate that is expiring. That's the Welch Brothers rebate, and the Ace Hardware rebate is coming on. I was quizzing some of staff here earlier about how much do we pay out in the Welch Brothers rebate over the last 10 years, and nobody can. $282,000 we paid out over 10 years for Welch Brothers. The Ace Hardware rebate, which we just approved, is quite a bit smaller than that, $50,000 over 10 years. And then I quizzed him on the tax rate, sales tax. I said, who knows how much it is in Cook County? What's the sales tax in Cook County? Well, it's 9%. And what's our sales tax in DuPage is 7%. Well, the state base is 6.25. Cook County has a home rule sales tax in Cook County of 1.75%. The remainder on top of that is 1%, and that's for the RTA. In DuPage County, the 6.25 is the state, and the only thing on top of that is 0.75% for the RTA. So anyway, that's just a little tidbit for you to think about. So it is 2% less in DuPage than it is in Cook right now. Local use tax is related to sales tax. This is taxes. The biggest thing now is online shopping tax. We're looking at a small decrease, but it's consistently been increasing. Our budget last year was a little on the optimistic side. Again, the IML, they estimate what we'll be receiving from the state, and they're estimating $25.30 per capita. Amazon began withholding. That was big news when Amazon began withholding taxes in 2015. Our budget back in 2014, or what we actually received was $313,000, and what we're budgeting this year. So that's picked up quite a bit. This year's budget is expected to be $70,000 more than what we're actually estimating to receive this year. So keep shopping on Amazon, and telecommunications tax is, it used to be a major. It's still hanging on as a major revenue, but it keeps declining every year. We're down to $930,000 is what we're estimating for this year. That's a $127,000 decrease from last year, so it's dropped below $1 million. The village collects 6% on tax on landlines and cell phone lines. The state, again, collects this money, and then they send it into us. It keeps decreasing. Nobody has for sure why, but it's because people are dropping their landlines. It used to be you had a landline, then you got a cell phone. After a while, people have decided, I don't need a cell phone and a landline, so they're dropping their landlines. So that's why we're expecting, or we think that it's been decreasing so much. Also, the packages, deals you get for your cell phones has become pretty competitive, and that's gone down a bit. So it's been a steady climb since 2011. My fact on the side for this one is the state tax on cell phones, landlines is actually 7%. So there's a total 13% when you have the municipality and the state. Some of the cell phone or the telephone bills, when people call the village and say, what's this village tax on here for? They send them to me, and so I get to explain to them. And sometimes the telephone carriers will combine the 7 and the 13, and they'll call it the Bartlett municipal tax, or the 7 and the 6, and they'll call it 13%. And I explain to them that 7 of that goes to the state. Next one's real estate transfer tax. This is $610,000. This also is not what it used to be back in the heyday. Is over $1.5 million. It's been increasing. It had been down in the 300s, but it's been increasing. I'm saying no change. It's just gonna. Well, when I was doing this budget, it looked like we were just going to be on. Sales have been positive. Real estate has kind of been okay. And then a property out in Brewster Creek would sell. Well, that would be the same amount as a whole month's worth of real estate transactions, so that kind of throws it off. But I don't think we can count on real estate in the Brewster Creek turning over like that on a consistent basis. And so this is an area that we budget conservatively, and when it consistently starts to pick up, then we will start to budget more in this line item. Water sales, we've already talked about our water sales at a last meeting. We're going to budget $7,800,000 for sales. That's 10% of our revenue. It's up $1,100,000, 16% increase from last year. This is based on the 20% rate increase that we talked about, based on the same consumption. We're not budgeting an increase or decrease in consumption. The average residential rate based on 6,000 gallons go up to about $45 a month, up from $38. Again, the last time rates were raised was in 2012. The main reason for the increase in the rates is going to be our transition to the Lake Michigan water source. We're going to have to continue with raising these rates as we move forward. Here's a graph of the consumption. As you can see, we've been consistently going down, except for a couple of years where we had a good drought. The actual year that consumption, so I've been working on this presentation for a while, so I've been quizzing the billing clerks. I said, when was the year that water consumption peaked in Bartlett? I asked them. Well, it goes back before this graph. 2005, that was basically the end of the housing boom, a very dry summer, over 1,200,000,000 gallons that year. It was a big year in water sales. Lots of sod, dry. So I don't think we'll see that again. Here's a picture of our revenues. You can see where we had a dry year in 2012-13, then it's been kind of flat, and it will go up due to the rate increase. The double-edged sword with water sales is that you don't want people to use too much water, but on the other hand, if they don't use water, then you don't have revenue. Sewer sales, again, $3,820,000. This is gonna be up $570,000 from last year's budget. Again, it's based on a 20% increase. Approximately 54% is fixed income. That's the flat charge. The rest is variable rates. And below is the cane cook at $16.57 a month. DuPage about $27. Moving into golf, budgeting $1,198,000. This is the golf program, basically the playing golf. This is a little decrease from last year's budget. Proposed rounds 34,500. This is the rounds is up. Talking with Phil. They get a lot of rounds, but they've had a lot of, he calls them the collar months, before the main season starts or after the good weather's over, and they discount the rates. Those rounds are counted as the same, but they don't bring in the same kind of revenue as full price rounds. This proposed budget is actually is 3% over what we're estimating it to come in this year. So a little increase. Pro Shop, about the same, 73,800, up just 2%. And then the food and beverage, 922,000. And a slight decrease from last year's budget, but it is we're we're projecting them to finish out this year at $878,000, and this budget reflects a 5% increase. In Paul's summary that he has back in the golf tab, food and beverage, talks that they have had 5 events that were hosted, bigger size, over 200 attendees since the new edition.
Is there any music in your presentation?
No, but I can't remember who was offering to do a song. Who was it that was? No, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's too.
I know back in somebody even asked me that today, before you.
Kathy used to do that.
Yes, I know, I'm sorry. Kathy used to have a lot of stuff going on in her budget presentation.
Too much time on her hands.
I could have at least a loud noise every once in a while to wake everybody up. All right, building permits, development building permits. $640,000 is what we're budgeting. This is basically our last year's budget was $641,275. I rounded it to $640,000. My budgeted numbers are a little more round. So it's basically the same as last year. Brian is expecting 28 new residential permits, 3 commercial permits. Again, commercial permits for new and existing construction, we're expecting it to be about $300,000 this current year. So a commercial permit can range from a few $100s up to almost $70,000 for one of the big buildings out for a new building. So that varies widely as well. We do just like the transfer stamps. This is a conservative budget. This is where we're coming in this year, but we do not try to project out or try to base our budget too much on revenue that can go up and down easily in this area. 2,800 miscellaneous permits is what we're budgeting. Those are about $100 a piece. Average is what we come up with, about 44% of the budget. So most of it, half of it is commercial, half is miscellaneous, and then the new construction for the residential adds in there. There's also fees that we collect along with that permit for water connection, sewer connection, developer donations, and things like that they pay into. So this is basically the end of the revenue section. I just wanted to make a note that in the big book, under the budget summary, there's a table of the tax rates and fees for the village, and that's on page S18. Gets into all the tax rates and fees. And then the next tab after that, where it says the proposed budget tab, the first section is the revenue detail. You can go down through every line item and list all of the different revenue line items that we collect on there, all the way down. It's got the gaming tax in there, and I was also quizzing them about how many dog tags. It's got a line for dog tags in there.
How many?
It was under $500 in dog tag revenue, and
Newman is one of them. So
and $2 for a dog tag. So
we have 1,000 dogs that are
I don't
tagged.
think. Well, I think we have about 250 dogs that are tagged.
Oh, 250
Yeah.
dogs. There's more than that in the...
Yeah, I don't think
I
everybody's.
see more than that on my walk.
Yeah.
Chance for new revenue.
Anyway, there's a lot of interesting revenues in there. Antenna, how much we collect from the antenna licenses and from the cell tower and things like that. Okay, expenses. Getting on to the operating expenses. This doesn't include all the capital outlay. This is just the 41 million. That's up 3.9% over last year's operating, 1,574,000. The debt service is the reason for the main increase. 1,198,000 debt service for the police station bonds. We're looking at just about a 1% increase without the increase of the debt service. Expenditures by type. Personnel services, 55% is from personnel services. Contractual services, that seems kind of big, but that includes our water agreement with Elgin. So all the water we purchase from Elgin is in contractual services, not commodities. Commodities is a little smaller. Other charges includes our debt service payments or liability insurance. Capital outlay then is the smaller equipment, vehicles, things like that, not the public works major capital projects. Expenditures by department. Here we have golf, service, public works. Public works, public safety are about the same this year, 33%. And then general government includes admin, finance, community development, building departments. This is a new area that I put in this year. Vehicle. The village has a separate internal service fund. We've got two internal service funds. One is central services, and one is vehicle replacement fund. And the vehicle replacement fund is where we regularly contribute money to from the departments. This is where we save money and then account for vehicles that we purchase. Right now we have $6.3 million in vehicles and other vehicle-like equipment, trailers, some other kind of equipment in the vehicle replacement fund. Estimated beginning balance starting in the fiscal 17-18 year is $1.1 million. So annually we've been transferring $593,000 from all the different departments that have vehicles. Proposed budget is $1,016,000, and the big ticket item, which I think some of you have seen before, this is the jet cleaning truck for the sewer department. This is kind of why I threw this one in here, give you a little time to mull over it before you give you a little extra time. And any balance in the vehicle replacement fund, $802,000. So I don't have, I'm sorry, I asked the guys, I said, I don't have a picture of that thing. It's the big truck with the big tank with the big hose that goes over and down the front. Yeah, it looks nice. It looks like it's a cool truck. It's got pipes all over it. And
It's a cool truck, guys.
And you rent it out for parties?
Anyway, maybe they could bring a picture for. Maybe we can get Dan to bring a picture for us when he's doing his department. Kind of like it brings me back to the police and the mobile command center right there. Oh yeah, the mobile command center right there on the front. I think when that thing was up for review or when they were going to purchase that, they had the whole 9 yards, the picture and everything for you. All right, again, 14 vehicles and one lawnmower. Some of those big lawnmowers are in the vehicle replacement fund. We had them give us what they were thinking about for next year. It looks like another 18 vehicles will be coming up. There is a system. We usually try to depreciate vehicles over regular years. There's 2 more big dump trucks coming up next year. There's 2 in this year's budget, 2 in next year's budget. Those are $130,000 a piece, big dump trucks. And those get a lot of use. Not so much plowing this year, though, right? I was up here at the 6-month review, and I was thinking, well, I don't want to say anything about the snow yet, but it turned out all right as far as the snow plowing budget. Again, in the big book, in the summary, where the fees were, summary section S-20 is a list of all the vehicles. It says vehicle replacement. It comes out of the vehicle replacement fund. It also has a list of all the other equipment that we'll be going over next week as far as the capital outlay purchases. So again, our budget snapshot, we don't have any new fees. Taxes or general fund property tax levy is flat. Our total general fund revenue is basically flat. The budget went up because of the police pension levy last year, but basically it's flat. We included in this is non-union wage increase 2.5%. It was the same as last year, same as the 2 union agreements that we have. We are planning to keep positions open this year. This is not a permanent keep the positions open, but they're planning to be held open this year. Water and sewer rate increases are included, and then the big story is the capital projects, 41 million capital projects. Quick review of the fund balance and general fund. You can see according to our policy, we're above our policy balance. Maximum range is 35%. We're up near the 50%, getting below the 50%. This year's budget is proposing to use a little over $400,000 in general fund balance to offset the expenses. You see in the year 2018-19, that's we've already committed to use $2 million of general fund balance for the police station, and that we're going to mostly spend bond money the first year. The second year we'll use the rest of the bond money and then the general fund money and municipal building and other funds that were committed to the police station. This is the water fund. We talked about the water fund. This is a little different than what we presented with the rates. This also has capital outlay and the loans and everything else included. The third year, I'm showing the rate increase included there. So we're still going to be looking at the rates each year as we move forward and get a firmer figure on what everything's going to cost. All the loans as far as the DuPage Water Commission, those will need to start being paid back when the water gets turned on or connected, and that's the summer of 2019. That would be the beginning of this fiscal 19-20 year. Sewer fund balance, again, is going to end up low this year, below the minimum. We're proposing the 20% increase in the rates to catch up a little bit. I did not show any rate increase for the 19-20 year here. That's why it's really tanking, and that's going to need to be reviewed. We used to show a fund balance of the golf program. That's also an operating fund. The golf does not have any cash. I think you're aware of that. And every year we show in our audit, we borrow money from the general fund basically is for the golf. And right now, over the years of accumulation and borrowing from the general fund, it's just over $1 million that the golf fund is short on basically using cash from the general fund over the years.
Hey, Todd, do we have any issues with bond ratings when these fund balances like water and sewer go underneath, especially the sewer fund where it's going so far under?
Yes. Yeah, we did a bond rating review with Moody's for the police station bonds. That was before we had figures for all of the DePage Water Commission, before we approved our capital budget, before all, yeah. And that's when our general fund balance was higher. We told them, they knew that we were committing the money from the general fund for the police station. But yes, they like to see fund balance reserves and us keeping with our policies. Special thanks here to everybody for helping me. Lorna is the biggest help, though. She's been helping me with this. The finance department does not have a secretary, so Lorna used to be our secretary. We continue to bug Lorna for getting through all of this, and the rest of these guys as well. They helped out as well. But thank you again. Next week we'll be going over departments. That's it for me. Thank you for staying awake during the whole.
Thank you, Todd. Do we have any questions at this time, or do you want to wait?
Todd, what do you think is our, if you look at it at a 30,000-foot view, what's our greatest opportunity for revenue growth?
For revenue growth? Well, we've been.
You hinted around a couple of different taxes that were lower than Illinois and lower than Cook.
Yeah, I know our sales tax. We do not. We're a home rule. We can levy property taxes. There's no restriction on property taxes yet, and we don't have a home rule sales tax. We don't have food and beverage tax. We're as low as you can get as far as sales tax at 7%. Nobody in our area can be lower than us with the. So I think you get up into Streamwood and they have taxes. Everybody around us has taxes.
Well, the reason why I ask, I think when you see some of these fund balances, I would be interested to have your office spend a little bit of time investigating our highest and best use as far as what some dials we could turn on and off or up or down or whatever. Just funding mechanisms, additional revenue mechanisms.
We can put that together for you, and also, some of that rate comparison for our neighbors, so you see what other our closest neighbors are taxing as well. One of the things that you did mention in the strategic plan was the food and beverage tax, and that I think is probably one of the ones that we'll definitely want to include on that list.
Do we have a contingency plan if the state freezes the property tax levy?
Well, the good news is that we've kind of had a self-imposed freeze for a while, so we know how to live under that.
Okay.
And we have done some litmus testing. But that's something we should continue to do with the moving target that they're presenting down south. So I think it would be a good, healthy thing for the entire board, so it's not out of left field, just to have kind of an arsenal, or not an arsenal, but a list of, these are the potential things we could lean on if necessary. That way we're not bringing them right up, and they're a general conversation, only if necessary.
Paula, I think I have some information at home. I thought I had it with me this evening on food and beverage tax from the surrounding communities. If I can find it, I'll forward it to you, okay? Oh, he did? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Todd. Anything else?
Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Okay, that concludes the proposed budget review.
With that, we'll adjourn that portion of the committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Clerk. I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Here.
Camera? Here. Carbonell?
Here.
Daney?
Here. Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Here.
That portion of the committee of the whole meeting is adjourned. Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for March 7, 2017. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Still here.
Camera?
Present.
Carbonell?
Here.
Daney?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. First item we have under the Committee of the Whole meeting this evening is under Planning and Zoning for Chairman Kammerer. Or Chairman Rankin.
I was about to ask you if I'd been reassigned.
Until April.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 2 items on planning and zoning. The first is Bracht's Place site plan amendment and special use permits. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Trustee Ranky. Larry Humbrock, the proprietor of Bracht's, is with us tonight. He is desiring to add to his existing place at 363 Prospect Avenue, expand into one of the vacant stores next to his property and to the north, and also add a game room, recreation, and amusement establishment special use into that 1,200 square foot unit, serve liquor into that 1,200 square foot unit, and also he is asking for an outdoor seating area that will come out of the back of the property in the area where there's some parking. And he's got the layout of the tables and chairs outside. It will be fenced, and then this is the new gaming area. So Larry is here asking for that special use and change to his establishment, and here's a look at the fence. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, and Larry's here too. It's pretty straightforward.
Any questions from the committee? Well, one of my questions is this outdoor seating area. Is it going to go all the way to the back of the parking lot? Is it going to prevent, I don't know, fire trucks or ambulances from coming around the back of the property?
It will. It ends. This is the end of the paved area, and then this is what is his paved easterly area. So this is primarily the back. Parking is his trash enclosure. There's no driveway around the top, so the trucks would have to come, if they were to fight this, if they wanted to come in the back, they'd have to turn around. There's also, though, a driveway out in the front here, and I don't know if you can see it on the air photo.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see it, but here's his property. This is all grass around it, so here's the driveway around the back to here, but there is a drive and an asphalt area right out in front. So the fire department looked at it. There is access to it. I think there's a fire hydrant right there, if I'm not mistaken. But there is no, as you said, there is no circulation around the back that they could continue around it's kind of at the end of the paved area, if you will.
And what is the distance between the outdoor seating area and the residences to the east?
Let me look at this. It's
Ballpark.
probably, ballparking it, it's probably 200. This is the pipeline easement here. I'm going to say all of 200, maybe 220 feet. He does have to notice some of these property owners and these people and on this side in his public hearing. So he's got to notice all the neighbors. But there is a good distance there.
Okay.
Now, will this beer garden or outdoor seating area be open till 4 a.m.?
I'm going to defer that question to Larry.
Thank you. We're only open till 4, 2 nights a week, and this could be probably closed off earlier if anybody wanted us to do it that way. They're going to go outside and smoke anyway, so I mean they're going either going to go out in the beer garden or they're going to go out in the back of the building outside. The only difference is they can't drink when they go out the other doors. I'm trying to contain everything into the beer garden if possible. There will be no music or anything out there. Actually, they're going to be farther away from the people living there than they are right now. So, we could close it off earlier if that was a problem. But we haven't had any problems in the back of the building. with noise.
Yeah, I
Has there
would
been
say,
any- Has there been any complaints in the front of the building with the neighbors directly to the west?
We have had problems in the past, of course, not when there was a cornfield over there, but now there's condos over there, and we had the problem a couple of years ago. But our biggest problem is people don't want to go home. They come out afterwards, and they're still partying, having a good time, and they're raising hell out in the parking lot. And we've wanted the police to come over there, and just sit there or something and scare them a little bit so they go home. I mean, we have to put people outside and chase them home at night after we close, because I guess they're just having a good time. They don't want to go home. So
I would say that this, it's the only 4 a.m. liquor license we have, but this is a special use, and you could put a condition, if you were inclined to grant a special use permit for this outside beer garden, you could put a condition of a different hour on there. You could say, for instance, that the beer garden could be there, but it'd have to close by 11 p.m. or whatever you see fit, and it could be different on the weekdays and different on the weekends if you were inclined to grant this, because the special use can have conditions on it, which is different and apart than their liquor license.
Do we anticipate, more people actually being in the back in the beer garden smoking versus in the front of the building? Will it alleviate maybe some of the disturbances that are currently happening?
well, we don't. We frown on people going out in the front and smoking. We try to keep them to the back,
Okay.
not in the front. There's signs in there and everything. We don't want them smoking out there. Some of them sneak out there and do it. I mean, we can't catch them all, but most of the people we do have go out in the back. And the only difference is going to be is whether they carry their beer out there or they don't. And I mean, they're not really noisy out there. They talk, but they don't scream and holler and throw stuff and make a lot of noise. So we haven't had any problems in the back that I know of. I mean, if somebody's voiced any opinions against it, I haven't heard it. So it's
So, can I ask this question then? Do you have people going out the back and smoking now? Or,
Yeah.
So are they just going to the front? So my concern, I guess, would be is that you get people out in the back, and then they've had a few drinks, they get a little loud. Now you don't have the sound barrier of the building in the front. If they go to the front and smoke, that building would act like a sound barrier, I think. But if you go in the back, and now all of a sudden they get really loud, I'm curious about how it would affect your neighbors if they could hear, that's all.
Well, it's just the opposite. If they go out in the front, then the people across the street are closer to us.
At the townhouses.
And that bothers them.
I see.
They go out in the back now. I mean, that's the only place they have to go.
I see.
And they do go out and smoke, and we have to clean up butts. I mean, there's buckets laying there, and you'd think they're standing right next to it. They could throw their butts in the bucket, but there's butts all over the ground that we have to pick up all the time.
Yeah, right.
So they're out there right now. The only difference is they would be inside an enclosed area, and they would be able to have their drinks out there.
Sure.
But it's more probably for daytime and earlier time than nighttime. I can't see that many people going out there that late at night, but I don't know. I don't have it yet, so I couldn't tell you.
So when you're open between 3 and 4 a.m., which I think is late, I think that's very late, obviously, do you have a lot of people in the bar?
Yeah, sometimes we got standing room only at 4 o'clock in the morning. Majority of these people are not the amateur drinkers. They're already gone home or sick or whatever, But majority of these people are people that are just taking it easy all night long or work at other places and come over there. Just after they get done working, they come over there. They're stone sober, and they want to just throw down a couple of drinks before they go home. When I first started this 4 o'clock, I really didn't want to because I was worried about having a lot of problems at 4 o'clock in the morning, but we don't. It's been going on now for, I don't know, 5, 6 years we've had it. 7 years, I can't tell, but right now, but the 2 o'clock versus 4 o'clock, it's good for business. I mean, we're busy late at night, and but we just don't have the problems I thought we were going to have. So,
And just to that effect, Mr. Humbrock, I would say that very little complaints I've heard of over the years that I've been here about your establishment, other than a couple years ago when a few things happened in the front. And this backyard thing seems to be really makes a lot of sense to me, because I can see where people don't like to stand out on the sidewalk, and then it gets a mess out there. And when you have walls around people talking, it's better than having somebody standing right outside your building, and then the people can hear them. So now you've actually got an enclosed area where these people are going to go no matter what. Now we've got an enclosed area where you're actually containing some of the noise. I think it's a great idea.
I've known Larry Humbrock ever since he was just an old, poor dirt farmer here in Bartlett. His family goes back many generations. He's probably one of the closest things to royalty that we have in this town. Thank you, Mr. Humbrock. He's been in business in town for quite a number of years, and I would send it on to, or suggest we send it on to Plan Commission with the preface that he has been a good businessman in this town the whole time. And the 1 or 2 problems we've had were taken care of immediately. Larry is a man of his word and sincerely dedicated to business here in Bartlett, his business. So that's all I have to say about that.
I agree.
I wanted to say one thing also. I play golf with a gentleman that has a bar, a lounge in one of the other suburbs here in the area. And he told me unequivocally that a great percentage of his revenue is because he is open from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And he's one of the few ones that has that liquor license also, and that was granted to him some time ago. So I wouldn't want to affect his business. One of the things that, I think I heard over, is that, maybe we could, maybe in the ordinance, we could have the outside portion closed at a specific time. Rather, I wouldn't want to affect his entire business by restricting the liquor license that he currently has.
I would disagree with that, primarily because this back entrance is going to be where the smokers are going to go, and if you close it early, the smokers are going to be heading out to the front. So I think that's problematic. I think he's written it up the way he wants to do it. There's no issues. Once we get it completed, keep going. That would be my recommendation.
I'd agree with you, President Willis.
Yeah.
Good
I
point.
agree as well. I think the freight trains probably make more noise than the 22 people that are going to sit on a piece of concrete, so I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll forward this on to the Plan Commission for further review.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Humbrock.
thank you. And this chicken thing, this is something I haven't heard of.
You cannot have chickens on the patio.
Like TL said, I grew up on a farm south of town here, and part of my chores was taking care of the damn things, and I hate them. But I'm thinking maybe I could go raise some pigs. How's that?
We'll let you have a pig out on the
Take the mic. Take the mic.
Belly pig, right there.
I have one other comment I'd like to make. I know that Mr. Humbrock has rented this space, and he'd like to move this along as quickly as possible. I wonder if we could expedite this at all to the Plan Commission. But do we have to post? Does this have to be an open meeting?
It has to have a public hearing.
It has to have a
notice
public
posted in the
hearing.
paper, and I think we've got it on for April. Yeah,
It
April
would be the soonest then.
Just 2 weeks away, basically.
If we want, you could always have that option of skipping it, coming from Plan Commission right to
I
there.
would suggest we do that,
Yes, please.
Because Plan Commission's tomorrow night.
Right.
Or Thursday night.
Thursday.
so you can get a bill before summer.
Yes.
So it's, okay, so it's in front of the Plan Commission tomorrow night, so,
No, I'm sorry, this is not, but because
Okay.
it's too late for that. It's in April, sorry.
okay.
And we'll bring it back as quickly as possible.
Okay, so our next item is amendments to the zoning ordinance, which includes Chapter 5 and 2, which includes, among many other things, bees and chickens and religious institutions and, Jim, what else am I leaving out? Impervious surface and swimming pools. So lots going on right here.
Right,
So
and
maybe
some
you could,
definition changes, too, that match all those.
Right, and you and I talked about a couple of changes to the text, but nothing significant.
Yes.
You want to kind of walk us through this?
Give you an overview of it, because it's been a lot of discussion, but I will say that Roberta and the staff have spent a lot of time, because it is actually more than chickens and bees. It's all of Chapter 5, which was originally 86 pages of the zoning ordinance, and we've condensed it down into 11 pages primarily by using charts and graphs. And the chart up in front of you kind of summarizes a lot of the changes, because it's all the uses in the residential districts, but it's all across all the residential districts, including the mobile home, the multifamily, single family in our estate, detailing what's permitted, what special uses, daycare establishments, community facilities, religious land use, institutions, places of assembly. We made this comply with what they call the RLUIPA law, and also going down to the agriculture and planned unit development. So it was a lot of work to condense it down there, and we feel that it's in a good format. The topics of big discussion were the chickens and bees, and I won't belabor anything else. Getting to the chickens and bees, we brought it to committee. The committee discussed these issues and had given us direction back in January. As we originally proposed it, we had larger lot sizes proposed for chickens and bees, but smaller than what the current ordinance allows. When it went to committee, the committee basically said, let's make the lot sizes possibly smaller for chickens, which was around 8,000, and for bees, which was 10,000. Along with the chickens and bees, or the chicken section, we added a lot of the input from the residents. Jennifer was a big help on this. We researched other towns, what they do. We put in size limits we put in a coop and chicken area size limit. We relimited the number of chickens, the enclosures, the distance from setbacks from adjoining property owners, structure in containing insulated walls to keep the chickens warm, maintaining some code type of issues where it has to be clean, free of odor, well-maintained, no roosters, no slaughtering, permit for the initial building of the accessory structure. We were also going to issue what we call a chicken license, and as we suggested by some trustees, it'd be 25 in the initial year. So we're kind of going on that range. And with bees, we added a little larger lot size with bees. It was 10,000 square feet, 2 apiary or 2 beehives, setbacks again. The larger lots had to have some type of fencing to prevent the flyway of the bees. And I'm not a big bee person, but I know they have to fly and they fly over stuff. Beehives, again, have to be kept clean and well maintained. Initial permit again, and then a renewal fee, a one-time license, and then again 25, limited to 25 licenses. Took all the texts to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their required public hearing. In the text amendment, there's 85 pages of minutes. Most of which people that spoke tonight also came to the Zoning Board of Appeals, expressed their concerns, their issues. The Zoning Board of Appeals, in a number of motions, recommended several things. I think in general they were fine with the text amendments to the Chapter 5 and the definitions. With beekeeping, they made a motion to actually increase the lot size to 1 acre, and they did recommend approval of increasing the lot size in the text amendment from the 10,000 square feet to 1 acre, and they reduced the number of hives permitted from 2 to 1. So that was the Zoning Board of Appeals recommendation on bees. On chickens, they went through the motion of trying to increase the minimum lot size from 8,000 to 20,000, but that motion did not pass with the votes, and they kind of ended with a tie. So they did not make a recommendation on chickens on the text amendment, so it was a tie. And then on impervious surface, the zoning board recommended that pools be included in the impervious surface calculation, which was opposite of what the board committee wanted at the time. Overall, they did also approve all the definitions that coincide with these. So that, in sum and substance, is here with you tonight. You've got the record from the zoning board, the testimony from everybody, and the text as you've seen it at the last time, and where we're sitting with the zoning board tonight and with you to discuss this further. And that's all I'll say, and I'll try to answer any questions. And we have Roberta's here also.
So at the risk of stealing Trustee Daney's line, I want to thank you and your staff for doing a very good job of consolidating this entire section. As somebody who reads zoning ordinances for a living, it's really appreciated that I can go to one place and understand what's going on. Even the chart, I'll get off my soapbox in a second, but even the fact that the chart is this way rather than this way makes this so much more user-friendly. And when we have a developer coming into the village and they look at our ordinances and they make sense and they're user-friendly, that's a win for us. So I thank you for that.
And that most of that work was Roberta. She put it in there.
Great work, Roberta. Great work, everybody. So when are you going to get the rest of the zoning ordinance done?
We're going to work on that. I think we've got Chapter 6 in a draft form. So
okay. Great.
Next week, right?
Yeah. We'll be looking forward to that at the next meeting. So one of the residents brought up an issue about the height of the chicken coops. Do we have a limit on the height of the chicken coops?
I don't think we put a limit on it as much as it's a limited based on our accessory building structure height, which is 15 feet for the structure of the coop. We have a fence height limit of 6 feet in that kind of rear yard. So we were going to follow those. If we need to put a specific height on the chicken surround area and the coop, we can certainly add that.
How high would you build a chicken coop? 6 feet is plenty. I would imagine that if it's taller, it's not good. It's not a good environment for them. They don't need that much height. They're not tall.
Harder to get to the eggs.
What's that?
Harder to climb up to get the eggs out of the coop.
Taller the chicken, the smaller the egg, I think. So.
Yeah. I think I read that somewhere. Okay. That is my big question.
Well,
any other questions from the committee?
Go ahead. Good.
I have several comments, and we've been going down this path for quite some time now, and I just think it's an opportunity for us to move forward and to do things that are user-friendly, and it helps to make our community a little greener, gives people an opportunity to do more with their food source and understand where their food source is coming from. We've asked staff to do a job which they've done exceedingly well, and we didn't ask them to make this up from the beginning, and they've looked at other communities and they've said, here's what other communities do and here's what works, and they put together a proposal that reflected that. And I would like to see us go back to that original proposal that was reflected and say, here's what we have. Here's the 8,000 square foot for the chickens and the 10,000 square foot for the bees, and to move forward with that. I also believe that if we had as many people coming in here today complaining as we've had people positive and asking for this, we would have been more than happy to listen to all the complaints. I think we need to listen to what people are asking for. And if there was a big concern, this has been publicized enough that people could have been here complaining about it. And I think it's our duty to listen to the residents who are asking us to do something, and let's try to be fair with them. And let's take this back to what the village originally spent the time, the effort, the money to come up with. Because really, when it went to the zoning board, I'm happy that they put the effort in to make decisions, but they really weren't based on anything. It was more of a fear than fact. I just want things to be more on a factual basis. And if we can say, all right, the reason we're taking this to an acre is because in Wilmot, they had it on smaller lots and it didn't work and there was problems, I might understand that, but there was nothing to substantiate that. And so it concerns me that we're going to change what the village spent time and effort and money developing, and then we're going to just say, well, I just feel like it'd be better on an acre lot. Well, I appreciate that, but it's not really based on anything, if you know what I'm saying. So I'd really like to see us go back to the original plan and bring it before the board for a vote, originally the way it came, and move on with this and let people have the opportunity to raise chickens.
Yeah, I would have to agree that we should keep the 8,000 square feet for the chickens and the 10,000 square feet for the bees. Where did we stand on how many hives someone could potentially have?
We had 2 limit on our 10,000 square foot lot. It was in the hives, that's typically that box type structure. So we put it at 2, and the zoning board recommended 1. So, and that was based on some research we had done in some other towns.
The comment I have is that the responses I've gotten from the residents, the emails have been approximately 10 to 1, 10 in favor of chicken coops or chickens, and I think that's pretty overwhelming. Also, I think that if we move forward with this, that we're issuing a limited amount of permits. So
25 is what's recommended.
25 permits, okay. So this could be monitored in a very manageable manner, and we can always tweak this after we let it run. Let's say it ran for 12 months and we reviewed it again. We could tweak it as something new for our village. But I also, I am in agreement that the 8,000 square foot lots would be very acceptable based on the response I've gotten from the residents. And I'm very open on the bees, so, if anybody has. And then, Trustee Ranke had talked about the size of the chicken coops. I would ask that we have some input from staff to help me make that decision. I don't know if the chicken coop should be 6 feet high, 8 feet high, 4 feet high. I know nothing about chicken coops, so I think that maybe we could have a little research done on some of the other communities that have, allowed chickens and see, what their chicken,
We were relying on input from the residents in some of the other towns, and we just left it as whatever our normal, it's considered an accessory structure. I don't think, as Jennifer and her husband will say, most people won't build them as big as a shed, but if you want to put in a 6-foot height limit on a chicken coop and a 6-foot height limit on the fence, I think that would be fine.
Jim, I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer.
I don't think you're going to get them.
I don't think there's a reason to.
I don't think we ought to overcomplicate it. If
Right.
it's already treated as an accessory structure, then I think we're fine.
That's how we were going to treat it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
One thing that I did read in the other villages that made a little bit of sense, I'm not sure which way I feel about this, but they made sure that the coops weren't visible from the street or sidewalk. Is that something anybody feels?
Well, it's put to the backyard, so that shouldn't be a real issue anyway.
I know that's in St. Charles, screened not to be visible from street or lot.
I would just put up the diagram we drew of a typical chicken layout. And
Unless, of course, it's sided and air conditioned and it doubles as like a man cave or something.
It's the man cave. Yeah. But there's no roosters allowed, so. this was the typical lot design. We did an interior lot. I suppose if you were on a corner side yard and the street was here, if you wanted to put that condition in, you would have to put some type of screening.
Unnecessary. I just thought it was interesting.
We're talking about 25 people max.
Yeah, right.
We're very committed to this use. So people do all kinds of crazy things with sheds. But we're not talking about sheds.
I've seen that,
We're talking
yeah.
about, I've got one of those too. But, we're talking about chickens and 25.
Yeah, okay.
And I think these regulations can be organic, kind of echoing what Trustee Daney said. If we need to change this, then we can certainly go back and
Keep it simple first.
keep it simple. Maybe much ado about nothing.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe
agree.
a problem.
I agree 100%. And there are some recommendations here as far as square foot per chicken.
Right,
If you only want 2, you don't need to build a big one.
right. They get lost in there.
Yeah.
And Jim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but 2H, we did talk a little bit about that. I think that one could be massaged a little bit.
Yeah, we worked on some of the language per your suggestions, and we made in H the one change that as you pointed out, it was a little confusing language. So H would now read, all areas where hens are kept shall be clean and well maintained with little to no accumulation of waste, period. And then in addition, all areas where hens are kept shall not produce or cause odors that are detectable on adjacent properties. So it'd be 2 sentences.
So that's nice and clear for enforcement purposes.
Yes.
And, okay. Good. And otherwise, no comments or thoughts on the recreational vehicles or side yards or any of that in 2 and 5?
I have a question about recreational vehicle, or 10.5.3 special requirements in residential districts.
What was it, Trustee Hopkins? 10?
Can I
TL has a comment.
make a comment or two about the chickens?
Yeah. I guess
My apologies to all of you that want to raise chickens.
she's not moving off chicken.
I'm very respectful of your intentions. However, I lived on my grandmother's farm summers, spring break, Thanksgiving, most of my childhood. I found chickens to be dirty, noisy. They require specific caretaking, and they could attract predators. We already have a little problem with coyote, but this will surely attract a coyote to your yard, to your children, to your dogs, to whatever. But I'm not totally cold-hearted. There's a little chicken in my heart, I guess. I would certainly go for a compromise, and that would definitely be to put the sunset clause on this ordinance. Let's try it for a year, see how it works out, and then review it again next February.
I think with anything new, that's only a fair thing to do. Yeah.
Well, my only concern with that is that people have made an investment in this now, right? So you've gone through the trouble. What are you going to do with that coop? I like sunset clauses. I think they make sense, especially when we're going into territory that we haven't been in, maybe for decades. But what are we going to do with these people who now have these chicken coops?
But I think that's another part of the responsibility as a board, is if you allow something like this, which is pretty unusual it's up and coming, but it's still unusual, you're taking a risk. If we do find out a year from now we've got 20 complaints from the 10 people that are living next to these chicken coops, we've got to act. And it'd be easier to have a review at the end of the year, in my opinion, than just have an open ordinance and then have, okay, how many complaints does it take to overturn this? That way we have a choice at the end of the year. Then we can just extend it.
Well, if we're going to do something like that, I suggest that it be a little longer term, maybe 2 years. And if we're really concerned about it being a problem, let's back the 25 down a little bit. If you're talking about a sunset clause, which I'm not advocating, but if you're going to do that, then those are the 2 changes I would suggest.
That's fine with me. 2 years, Jim?
Can I address something to my next door neighbors? Please don't.
Okay.
Well, then if we're going to do that, or do we need to do that now as far as?
Just direct, staff to.
So we'll have a review after 2 years?
2 years.
2 years is a sunset or a review year. We won't call it a sunset, we'll just call it a review.
The sunset clause, that's what it's
All right,
called.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, if you're going to take the
And then are
risk-
we going to go from 25 to 20?
No, I think we should leave it alone. We have 25. Yeah,
So
25.
we'll leave that alone.
Leave it alone.
And I don't think the 25 permits will be used. I need to get a clarification, and somebody explained to me, I had said, why can't we review this in a year? It doesn't mean we have to terminate it, which I would like to look at it at a year. And if there's anything we can do to help the residents, if there's some questions that they want to bring back, or if there's some input we can give them, I think if we put it off to 2 years, there's too much of a time gap there for problems to occur.
Well, I think it takes a little while to get you're not coming in with full-grown chicks, are we, Jennifer? Are you going to come in with for full-grown chickens? It's going to be chicks it's going to take a few months 6 months, let's say, for a chick to grow into a chicken.
It'd take them a year to lay an egg? How much?
But you also have the investment in the coop.
Yeah, all right, let's not beat this. We not beat
6
this
months
horse
delay.
anymore. 2-year sunset, we'll all.
Yeah, that's
agree on
fine.
that, And at
2
the end
years.
of 2 years, we can
Good,
redo it.
okay.
Right.
Everything will be
All right,
hunky-dory.
that sounds good. And we're going to go back to the original
8,000.
8,000, 10,000.
ZBA won't be happy.
That's all right.
That's all right.
The 8,000, 10,000 is in the ordinance that's currently before us. We're not changing it, right?
Jim?
You're not going to go, what I'm hearing is you're not going to take the zoning board's recommendation to increase the size and leave it at 8 and 10,000.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because it sounded like we had changed and we're not. We're,
Right.
okay.
Yes, that's right.
And we're also going to, are we going into the swimming pools yet, or?
But does anybody need to talk about
No
the
more
swimming
chickens.
pools?
We're good.
Well, and actually, I think Trustee Hopkins had the floor
Yeah.
before you were interrupted. So
Yeah.
what was your question?
Which
It was
not-
about RVs, 10.5.3?
Which line?
10.5.3, special
10.5.3.
requirements.
10,
10.5.3, special requirements. in
5.3?
residential districts, Commercial motor vehicles. It says the overall height of 8 feet 6 inches.
Yes.
Where did we kind of
I don't know.
get that height from?
That height came from a text amendment that we made several years ago when there was probably 6 or 7 years ago, when there was a request from some of the contractors in the community who had to start bringing their vehicles home. And like plumbers, electricians, that kind of thing. And after much research and figuring out how big some of the trucks are with the ladder racks and everything, that was the height that came out of that. And that was at a request back that time, so that we left that height in there, and that's kind of carried over.
Would anyone object to changing that to 9 feet? It's an extra 6 inches.
What's the purpose?
Change it from what?
8 feet 6 inches, change it to 9 feet.
Or what reason? Just curious.
Well, some people have, they throw an extra ladder up on their truck and they're at 8 feet 9 inches or 8 feet 10 inches, and I don't think it's being enforced, but I would hate to see someone throw an extra ladder on their truck and
9 feet?
Usually where we get the problems is that when people get away from like the pickup truck or the van with the ladder rack, and they bring in the big box truck. And it was to prevent that, but, if somebody threw an extra ladder on there, I don't know if we would get that specific. We've not done too many measurements. It's really when you see that box truck that's coming in, when it's usually, like the typical Comcast van with the guy that's what it's allowed for, or the plumber's van that has, the pipes on the top. But when somebody comes in with those big box trucks that are like the little moving vans, that's when we get the calls.
yeah, and those I think are well over 9 feet without a ladder rack on top.
Right.
So you're not going to bust anybody's chops over 6 inches?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
I know.
Good, that's a great answer.
Let me ask, I had a
Great answer.
call from a resident, he asked about a utility truck. So,
Do you want to try to change?
do we know what a
I would like to see
utility
a change
truck
to
is?
that.
I went out and took a photograph
why
of
you
it.
wouldn't make that
and It
much.
looked like one of the old
It's not a big.
Illinois Bell trucks that, you know, that,
Those would be allowed, because those are.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of the,
that's what we ended up telling them.
yes.
Okay, so then can we all agree that we are going to increase that 6 inches?
It makes Trustee Hopkins happy. I'm all
Fine
for
with
it.
me.
Okay, so no, in
I
other
like
words, no
your
objections.
attitude.
Any
He's on
objections?
board with chickens, so I'm going with him tonight.
2 ladders on top of his truck a couple of times.
Okay. So no objections to that. Okay, so then Jim, that's obviously our.
Okay.
And then the pools, I don't think, we talked about pools so much. I think that makes sense. And I did read
Are
the.
we leaving it or taking it?
And so I read the plan commission minutes, and I understand that that the surface underneath the pool is impervious, and I get that, but I think the intent was kind of to soften this and not to be too arbitrary and penal in nature, and more stormwater management. And if the staff is happy with the numbers, you know, the 30, 35, 40, 45%, if you're happy with the numbers, let's do this.
Yeah.
Is there any?
For the point of
Are we leaving the
clarification,
pools in
we're leaving,
calculation or taking?
Pools are,
taking it
Well, it's
out.
excluding.
pools are out,
It's excluding the pools
right.
from the impervious calculation. So meaning you're treating the pool as if it was pervious.
Correct.
As if it catches water.
Because it catches water to a certain extent, and okay. All right. But I mean, I think
Want
the
to
point's
go-
very well taken.
So do we want to leave the pools in the way it is or change it back?
Leave it-
You're saying change,
change it, so they're
Right.
not.
is what you're saying.
You don't want us to count the pool in the calculation of impervious.
That is correct.
Correct.
So that's a change.
Well, but you do, but see, I'm getting confused because the draft chapter 5 you've given us has red as new language, and you're excluding pools. So I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, you're saying
So
the
you
same
are excluding that, so there is no change from what is before
From
us.
that, but you're, okay.
Let me clarify.
Because it's
Jim.
a negative. 'cause,
Right now, you're including all pools
Right.
as impervious.
Impervious.
surface. So it means it counts against your impervious
So
area.
you're saying
And
go
we're
with the
switching that
proposed
to
amendment.
say it is,
Right, that's how it was the last time you saw it. Now, the ZBA recommended the opposite. They left, so you want to go back again to the way it was the last time you saw it. So where you don't count the pool in the impervious calculation.
Correct.
yes.
That's what you're saying.
Confusing, because it changes the definition.
Double,
Right, 'cause we're
triple,
putting it in the
back.
negative.
Like a
quadruple
triple
negative.
Yes.
It gives people a little break on there, so.
Can we just say pools are in or out? That would be easier. Pools are outside the impervious calculation,
That's correct.
unless they're inside.
Just,
We'll go back.
Got all comedians.
just let me ask,
It's been a long night.
Yeah, I know.
And that was,
it's all right, we have leftover chicken, so when we leave.
Right, yeah.
But let me,
Throw chickens
I
in
was
the
clear on this 10 minutes ago, all right? And now I'm thoroughly.
We've been busy.
What are we, someone please explain, what's happening with pools?
Okay, so as the statute sits right now, if you have a pool in your backyard,
Yeah.
it is included as concrete. That's the easiest way to say it. It's a piece of concrete.
Right.
So it's calculated in impervious surface.
Right.
What we're saying is that it catches water.
So we're
Really,
we're changing
taking
it.
it out of
Fine,
the impervious surface.
that's fine.
That's good?
CBA is not going to be happy with us at all this evening.
It's all right.
Well,
Sorry, gentlemen.
so if there's any more questions or comments about the zoning ordinance amendments, otherwise, I'm going to suggest that we refer this on to the village board for a vote.
One last question about pools. I'm only kidding.
In-ground, above-ground pools, same calculation.
How tall is the truck?
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all we have on the agenda for zoning and planning this evening.
Thank you for your efforts, Chairman Ranky. That was well.
And this comes back, Jim, for a vote, what, in 2 weeks?
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee Ranky, seconded by Trustee Aaron's. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Camera,
Yes.
Carbonaro,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ranky.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Trustee Ranky.